Welcome back to the Investor Professor podcast. This is Dr. Ryan Peckham, and this is episode 139. On today's episode, we're going to discuss Elon Musk and his pay package. Did he get the votes? We're going to talk about the Fed meeting, and we'll talk about how does your 401k balance compare to everybody else in your age group, something that comes up plenty of times. And we're also going to talk about the movie Inside Out. All on today's episode, so get your mind right and let's get to work.
You dropped this.
Well, welcome back as always. We'd like to say happy Father's Day. Father's Day today. I am recording this at 9:45 at night on Father's Day, Sunday, getting ready for the week. It's one of those things, it's a non-negotiable. I was thinking I'll just get up and record, but the thing about it is the week starts and things get going, and all of a sudden it's going to be Thursday, and I'm going to be like, I didn't record an episode last week, and there was some good news, and so we just do not compromise with ourselves. We do not compromise with ourselves. We say we're going to do it, and we do it. So here we are. It was a good week in the market, man. The stock market has been doing well. There's a holiday in the middle of the market this week. So we celebrate Juneteenth on Wednesday, and the market will be closed for that. So just make sure you make note of that. But this past week, it was a good week. The market again, we've been talking about NVIDIA, and I feel bad that I talk about it so much, but again, it's split and it's already gone up from 120 to 131 after the split, which just for perspective, that would be, if it was pre-split, that would be another $100 that it has gone up. And so I'm looking at this thing, and again, I'm thinking, okay, we've had a good run here. Bulls make money, bears make money, hogs get slaughtered type of thing. And so I'm looking at when do I want to start trimming some of that, or at least putting in some protection, just taking a little bit off the table. We've had a great run here. Doesn't mean my thesis has changed on it at all. It doesn't mean that I don't think they're going to continue to do well, but I do always think about discipline and, making sure that we're doing the things that we need to be doing. And so taking a little bit off the table, I think for a lot of people would be a little prudent. And honestly, with all the election stuff coming up and all that, you're probably going to get a chance to be able to buy it back a little bit lower, right? So just exercise a little bit of discipline if you've had it for a while. I would like to say I've had a busy couple of weeks, some really cool things going on personally for me. I will say that my firm that I don't talk about too much on here, but many of y'all that listen to this know. But the firm that I run is called Our Equities, and we just got SEC approval. So Securities and Exchange Commission approval. Firm has to be over $110 million for that to happen in assets under management. So we've hit that, and we just keep growing. It's been pretty amazing. It's interesting. I didn't really talk about my practice too much and all those things when I was younger. I wanted to build it up. I didn't, but so that I was going to be big enough to where people couldn't really push me around anymore. And that's where we're at today. So it's a really big thing for us, compliance wise. So when I say this is for entertainment purposes only, I truly mean it. I am not your financial advisor. So please talk to somebody, do your own research, and really treat it as kind of a learning process. And hopefully this spurs some ideas. You can talk to somebody about it, see if it's appropriate for you. But this investing is just the greatest thing. To me, I just love this profession so much. I love everything about it, even on the bad days, even in the years in 2022, which were horrendous, and 2020 for a little while, and when I started in 2019. So it's cool to look back, see where we've come, see where we've been the last 10 years, and kind of what our future is going to be here. I get to work with some outstanding people And I mean that too, like the clients that I have, the people that I get to work with, the students I get to work with. It's just amazing. I am extremely fortunate, and so I am very thankful every single day to get to do what I do. And tomorrow I'll be working this week on a high school investment camp that TCU puts on that I'm very lucky to be a part of. And it's so interesting. People always ask me why do I enjoy teaching so much and all these kind of things. And really, when I really boil it down, I get to my one of my favorite things, obviously, in the world is investing, and I get to introduce people to that. So I get to introduce people to my favorite thing in the world, see them kind of the light bulbs go off, how it can change their future, their families, their family tree. And to me, there's nothing better. It is just a wonderful profession that I get to be a part of, and so I hope that I'm a good steward of that. So we look this week, and we look at Elon Musk and Tesla, and the big was he going to get his pay package or not, right? And so um, I gotta quit saying as a filler. I am noticing that so much. It's probably because it's a little bit later. My mind's slowing down. But Elon Musk did it again. Elon Musk compensation, $48 billion pay package. Now, everybody, you hear those headlines, right? $48 billion for Elon Musk, and the judge blocked it, all of those things. Now it comes to a vote. The thing about this that you have to realize is this was agreed upon in 2018. It was agreed upon by shareholders saying that if he met the metrics that he laid out for Tesla, the sales goals, all of those things, that he would get this money. So the deal had already been made. The deal had already been made. And as somebody, I remember I worked for a bank one time. They asked me what my 5-year goal was. I told them I wanted to make a certain dollar amount within those 5 years. And as soon as I hit those goals, they reduced my pay. They cut my commission. And I was like, hey, and they go, well, we didn't think you would do it. Well, the only reason I'm making these numbers, gonna make this much money is because I've made you a lot of money. Is kind of the way I thought about it. And that was kind of my beginning of the end. I've always been a terrible employee. I should have been trying to be an entrepreneur from the start. But it's the same thing for Elon Musk. Yeah, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. But he has made Tesla shareholders billions upon billions of dollars. And so even though 48 billion seems just absolutely ridiculous to some people, he's produced a lot of value. I mean, what is Tesla without Elon Musk, right? So that's what kind of shareholders were saying here is they're like, hey, don't fire Steve Jobs. And that goes back to Apple letting Steve Jobs go in the 90s. And then he goes and starts a small company named Pixar, makes Toy Story, sells it to Disney for $1 billion. And then Apple goes, hey, would you mind coming back? And he goes, sure, I'll come back. And then starts the greatest, revolution in history with the iPod, and then the iPhone, and then the iPad. So, what is Tesla without Elon Musk? So luckily, this came back. Elon Musk gets his compensation package. 72% of the vote, by the way, 72% of the vote. And one of the things I thought was interesting about this, and what I really wanted to bring up, is that when you look at the 11 largest companies in the S&P 500, by proportion of non-institutional or insider investors. So basically, they have small investors, retail investors, which would be me and you and your friends. And Tesla, 43% of all their shareholders are small investors, which is interesting. Apple has like 41%, and Berkshire Hathaway has 28%. So a lot of their investors are not institutions, are not big investors, and so this is kind of the small investor putting their confidence in Elon Musk, and so hopefully that'll help things out there. This can kind of finally be resolved, and we can get back to business as usual, so to speak. And then, of course, in true Elon's fashion, he comes out, says that, the Tesla robots are going to be better than all the cars and everything else going on. So maybe we'll spend some time on that on another episode. So we also had a Fed meeting this week. The Fed did not raise, or they didn't raise interest rates. They didn't lower them. They didn't change them at all. The CPI number came in. It was lower than what was anticipated. So the market went up on that. there's a lot of articles that says, at the beginning of the year, and I've said this so many times on this. You're tired of hearing it. I'm tired of saying it. At the beginning of the year, they were expecting 6 rate cuts. Now they're basically expecting maybe 1. And it's like, okay, well, if that's what's going to happen, like, why is the stock market still up? Well, you have to understand, for the big companies, right? When I say big companies, the Apples, Amazons, all of those, um, it's not so much that they're not going to lower rates. It's the fact that they're not going to raise them. It's that that they don't think that inflation has come down just enough that they don't think that there's going to be any kind of risk of them having to continue to raise rates, which has helped dramatically. But when you look at the S&P 500 this year, it's up 14%. So if you go look, how much is the S&P 500 up? It's up 14%. But that's because when you look at that return, that is a market cap weighting. So that means that the bigger companies, the NVIDIAs, the Apples, the Googles, they're all weighted more because they're worth more money, right? So market cap, remember, is the entire value of the company. If you were to look at an equal weighted S&P 500 where no company no company was counted more than the other, the S&P 500 would only be up 4%. And again, it shows you just how valuable and how much emphasis has been placed on those big companies since the AI boom and all of that. So they're kind of starting it, and then maybe in a year or so, you'll have like the other companies start to join in. But when you look at that, it's pretty tremendous that there's that big of a difference between the market cap weighted and the equal cap weighted of the S&P 500. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So one of the questions that so many people always ask when they're talking to me or any other financial advisor is kind of like, especially when they talk about their 401k, is where should I be? You hear that all the time. Where should I be? If you're looking at people my age, where I'm at, where should I be? Where am I compared to everybody else? How much should I have in my savings account? How much should I have in my retirement account? All of those things. Well, Forbes put out a thing this week. And if you're watching this on video, I have my phone in my hand because I screenshotted the article. But Forbes put out a deal, average 401k balance by age. So this is going to be broken up by generation. So we have boomers, we have Gen Z, we have millennials, we have Gen Z, and then the average overall. I will say, I do want to preface this by saying this is the average. Okay. And I know many of the people that listen to this, I know the ones of you that I know personally, I wouldn't consider any of you average. I would consider most of us above average. If you're listening to a financial education podcast on a regular basis, you're probably going to be far above average, right? So if you think about what the average intelligence is and you look at the bottom 50%, right? So I'm going to guess that many of you are going to be above average, and hopefully that's where you want to get if you're not there already. But the average balance for boomers, which in this case, for their definition, they actually put this down. This is people between 60 and 78 years old. So the average balance for 60 to 78 years old is $241,000. That's the average, $241,000. So these are people that are either already retired or about to retire, and that's probably a lower number than you were expecting. And by the way, of those in that generation, 14.8% of them have a loan on their 401k currently. So they've borrowed money from their 401k that they have to pay back. So Gen X is going to be $178,000 is their average. And so the bad part about theirs is that 24% of them have a loan. Millennials, which for some reason I'm like a young Gen X and a old millennial. I think I barely beat I'm like a millennial by 4 months or something. So millennial, the average balance is $59,800 and 16.7 have a loan on that. And then Gen Z, the average 401k balance is $11,000 with 5% already taking out loans on those. So, I feel like are those numbers surprising to you? Maybe, maybe not. You can see where you compare when you look at how much people are putting away. On average, the total savings rate is 14% on average across all generations. The employees are saving about 9, and their employers are contributing about 4.8%. So the one thing that kind of bothers me on the percentage with all their 401k savings in a target date fund. So a target date fund is where you just basically say, I'm going to retire in 2040, and the computer system does it for you. Right. So as you get closer to retirement, it gets like safer. I say safer. It gets less risky. I shouldn't say safer. It gets less risky. It puts more in bonds. It puts more in just cash. This is probably the part that like makes me the most nervous, because boomers have 44% in that, in target date funds. Gen X has 54%. Millennials 71%, and Gen Z 83% just put it in a target date fund. The reason that makes me nervous is because bonds have done horrible over the last 10 years. And I'm sure at some point they might do better, but like, I don't know, the set it and forget it method is probably going to lead to pretty, I wouldn't even say average performance. I'd probably say under, because 401ks are notorious for not giving you very good investment choices. And so if I'm looking for an investment lesson here, the other thing too is if you're young, especially if you're Gen Z, I would be telling you to do a Roth 401k so that you won't have to pay taxes on the money later. But also, I would encourage you to, after your employer, contribution, you match with your employer, I'd look for another bucket, like a brokerage account where you could actually invest some of your own money into certain things. The knock on 401ks is you don't get very many investment choices, right? So in a 401k, they give you choices that you can invest in. They're all going to be funds. And, you can do the S&P 500, you can do the Dow, you can do the NASDAQ, which is great. But if you want to do individual holdings, like if you wanted to invest in NVIDIA on its own, Apple on its own, you wouldn't be able to do that. So again, we talk about these buckets, right? You got to have your 401k bucket, your retirement plan bucket, but then also having a brokerage account or just a normal investment account that you can also save in so that you could do maybe some more specific investments on your own. So, but I think if you can do both and you have the ability to, you should definitely think about that. The other thing, and the other reason that this episode's coming out so late tonight is I took my daughters, I got a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old, took my daughters to go see Inside Out 2 today, which, I mean, the numbers on this are incredible. They're showing that they've already made, Inside Out 2 has already made $155 million in the first weekend, which is 70% higher than they thought it would be. And so the first one came out in 2015. So my oldest daughter would have been 6. Is that right? 6. And my youngest would have been 4. And so I had a great time. And as a dad, you're watching this, you see these movies through your kids' eyes, which is always great. I mean, I'll watch any cartoons with my kids. Like I watch everything. It just doesn't matter to me. I have a great time watching whatever they want to watch. And so there's a couple movies, like as my daughters have gotten older, that have been big. Obviously, I said I had 2 daughters, so Frozen, when you look at that, was important. But Inside Out was also really good. And I think about it because on my desk here, I'm going to hold it up for the camera. If you're on the just listening, you won't be able to see this. But on the camera, I'm holding up a rainbow unicorn, which this rainbow unicorn is from Inside Out, the first one. And one of my daughters gave it to me, when a long time ago. And it basically reminds me, I've had it on my desk since, that's going to be close to 10 years. I mean, it's probably not that long, probably 8 years. But just to remind me who I'm working for, right? That I'm working hard for my family, my daughters, and all that kind of jazz. And so, it's just one of those things, like something on my desk that reminds me. And Inside Out 2 is great. If you have kids, it's a great movie, especially if you have teenagers. Pre-adolescent people, little ones going through puberty. It does a great job of talking about those emotions. But I love having the ability to do this, because again, it reminds me, 2015 with my daughters when they were younger does not seem like it was that long ago. And again, it's a reminder to do things, to work hard, to do the disciplines, all of those things. And I was thinking earlier this week about how much I try to stack goals, right? So I'm trying to get multiple goals done at once. So an example, I don't know if this is a good example or not. Maybe it'll help you. But I started mowing, I mow my grass, right? So I'm mowing, doing the dad thing. But I switched to an electric mower because I like to listen to books. And so I'm getting my steps in, I'm mowing the grass, and I'm also listening to a book. So think about things that you can do where you stack goals. Like when I'm working out, I usually listen to maybe 3 to 4 songs, and then I switch over to a book. If I'm driving, I'm listening to a book. I mean, all the time I'm listening to something, I'm doing something. So, how is your life set up? How can you stack multiple habits to help you get to the goals that you're trying to get to, right? So, what are some things that you can possibly do? Whether it's not eating out as much, and I'm not saying like not eat out at all, but maybe reduce eating out by 1 or 2 meals a week. Put that money into your savings account or invest that money, if that's your goal, or, but it also you're probably going to eat something healthier if you're not eating out. So all these things, right? So think about, how can I stack different goals and help me get to where I want to be? And just little reminders, right? So like Rainbow Unicorn reminds me to work hard for my daughters, reminds me to do these things. So what are some things you can put on your desk? I know so many of y'all have goal boards where you have pictures of things that you want in life, or whatever it is, to help remind you. And the key is to also switch them up. If you have a goal board, or you have something like, especially I notice a lot of people have things on there, like their wallpaper, to where it doesn't just become where you don't register it anymore, right? Like, so that you actually have to think about it a little bit. And so all of these little things, just little bitty things that help make sure that our ship is on the right course and that we're pointed the right direction. All of those little things can be the difference between reaching our goal or just floating out, into the vast wide open. So, and that is why we always end the show, right? Don't mistake activity for achievement. John Wooden, the great John Wooden, don't mistake activity for achievement. It's Sunday night. After I record this podcast, I'm going to make a list of the things I need to get done tomorrow, the tasks that I need to get done, so I don't have to think about it in the morning. Set yourself up for success. And so I hope this has been helpful for you. And as always, don't mistake activity for achievement, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.